What's up, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, and the overall market. Just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire community as a whole. Anyways, let's talk about what's happening with the market. Why did the market get a big rejection and what's going on so far? I gave everyone a warning that there's going to likely be a big move coming. I said it was going to be coming at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And as soon as the data came out, the market saw a big dump. So we had two factors that caused the dump, at least for the broader markets. Starting off with Tesla, just know that Tesla's facing a U.S. probe by the NHTSA over their vehicle summon feature because there have been some reports that it may be causing accidents. I'm not going to say anything or guarantee anything about that. We're just waiting to see what the NHTSA finds, but that's a little bit more negative news for them. This may involve over 2 million Teslas. Now, that's the news for Tesla specifically, but for the broader markets, just know this. There was one piece of news that came out about the Fed. The meeting schedule for 2025 has come out. At least this is what reports suggest. I can't say if this is truly confirmed by the Fed, but I can say this. This news is making lots of headlines, and the market obviously is not as excited about this. So what's going on is for 2025, for this year, okay, we have an FOMC meeting in January, and the Fed is not expected to cut or raise rates. They're expected to keep rates steady. Then there's about a 50-50 chance we get some kind of cut in March. Okay. We don't know for sure. That's still to be determined. And then right now, the data suggests that the rates are going to be steady in May and June. And there might be some kind of cut in July or September. So I hope that's as clear as possible. So as of right now, this data suggests there may be only like one or two cuts between now and September. Not the best of what we're essentially looking for, at least for the markets, right? The markets didn't really like this news, especially when Jerome Powell made the announcement initially. So that is not the best of news so far. That's part of why the market dipped. And there's also this news right here. This data was actually not too bad. The market still dipped despite this coming out. So the first thing was we got the ISM services PMI. This was aligned with expectations. The job openings were quite strong according to the reports. Business activity was strong. And then there were two things that were kind of weaker. So employment on the services side was a little bit on the weaker end of our expectations, so a little bit weak. New orders were so, but then what was a little bit high were the prices. Services prices went up, so this is a little bit more expensive than before. Not the best, at least for what the market was looking for. So I would say the data that came out was decent for the most part, but one or two things were not too good. The market still dumped because of that and the Fed. With that being said, what do I think is going to happen from this point on? I'm going to go over the rest of these. So starting off with the one and only Tesla, we're technically on a downtrend. Okay, we hit our 50 EMA around 425 and we just rejected. So the support I was watching for was around that 394 area, which is what Tesla's losing. If we can't reclaim at least 395-ish, there's going to be a risk of Tesla continuing to fall to 390 and eventually back down to about 385, which is where this trend line happens to be. We got to try to hold the trend line, otherwise Tesla could be dumping even more all the way back down towards these lows over here to 373, then 360. So keep that in mind, guys. There's still downside risk for Tesla stock because of the probe that's going on and because of what's happening right now. I'm going to talk more about other news maybe in my later videos, but for now, that's what's kind of like affecting this. For other factors, we have SPY. So notice that SPY has a left shoulder, it has a head, then it has a right shoulder, right? So far, this is looking like it's going to pan out, but SPY has not lost critical support yet, which is where this blue trend line is. So notice this bottom support has not broken yet. So we can't say for sure if the right shoulder is officially leading to this big cliff dive. We're not officially there yet. So what I'm looking for is this 590 area. 589s to 590s, their main supports. We got to try to hold this, and then we'll have to see how things end up going from here. If we end up losing that support, then that could start dumping all the way down towards 588s, then back down to this trend line of support 585. If that fails us, we turn a lot more bearish. If we try to bounce, we're looking for 591 to be reclaimed. If we hold above that, we're looking for an attempt to get back up to 592.39, then 594. At the very least, I want to see us reclaim 594 to turn back up either today or tomorrow. If we, excuse me, if we can't do that, this will continue to favor the downside and move back down towards the 580s. So keep that in mind. We favor downside. We haven't lost 390. We haven't lost 590 yet. Excuse me. But overall, the trend is still a bit more bearish as we have this head and shoulders. Unless we reclaim at least 594, this still favors downside. For ES, it's the same thing. We also have a downtrend. When I zoom out like this, you guys could see there is a head and shoulders. That's quite obvious. A left shoulder, a head and a right shoulder. As of right now, we're making lower highs, so we were not able to hold above 60.35. We got to reclaim at least 6,000. Otherwise, this favors downside. We're looking for 59.80. So our support, if that fails, we're looking for 59.50. So this could be favoring more downside as well. For Nvidia, NVIDIA also has an interesting trend here. We have this resistance around this 143.3 AR20 EMA and then 146. We have support at 140.24. If that fails, so we're looking for 137.5. So overall, we're stuck in between these levels. We could be looking for a dip for 140 and 137.5 if this fails us. So NVIDIA pumped very nicely, but I called out in my morning video there was this gap to watch for. So I said, yes, NVIDIA could try to push close to 155 and watch and see if we get a rejection depending on the data. And what happened is we got a rejection. We ended up coming down to the gap area and we lost all of those supports. Now we're dumping to about 140. So the 50 EMA at 140 has to hold, otherwise 138 or below is coming. Please keep that in mind. For Bitcoin, we got a big rejection. We have to try to hold above 98,000. If we can't hold that, we're looking for an attempt to get back down towards 97,000 flats to 96,530. Overall, I think that the odds do favor this dipping a little bit lower. We have to try to reclaim 99,000. Otherwise, this favors downside for 96,500. For others out there, we have NQ. NQ is the rejecting. So I said in my morning video, watch and see this very important trend line. Do we hold above this or do we lose this to turn back down? Notice that we keep on rejecting off the blue trend line over and over again. We're not holding above it, so it's not a good sign. And we lost our 200 EMA at 21,540. We got to reclaim that, otherwise this favors downside even more, and we could be dipping towards 21,300. So it looks a bit more bearish. For the QQQ, we look a bit more bearish. We're technically on a downtrend. We have to see if we can reclaim 520. Otherwise, this may be dipping even lower. So look at look at resistance at 520. If we can't hold above this, this could continue to fall back down towards 515 and eventually 512. I think this is favoring downside for the 512s as a very potential target if we can't hold 515. So watch that carefully. And excuse me, guys. Sorry. For now, we still look a little bit weaker as we're making lower highs and rejecting off our key trend lines. So for now, the QQQ looks a bit more bearish. For Apple, we're on a bit of a downtrend, making lower highs right here. We have support at 241, resistance at 246. We're in this range right now, but we could be dipping lower, so please keep that in mind. For a few more, we have the IWM Russell 2000. This also got a rejection. We were supposed to hold above 228, otherwise we're favoring a move back down to 220. So 220 and 218 are potential targets. For Coinbase, the same thing is going on. We have to try to get back above 275. Otherwise, we're favoring downside for essentially 258. Amazon needs to get back above 224. If it can't reclaim that, there's going to be a risk of it filling this gap towards 220. Meta, same thing. It's rejecting so far. We got to get back above 620. Otherwise, we could be dipping to about 610. And then Microsoft has a gap. It's come down to fill its gap already. I could call this out in my morning video. So I would like to see it reclaim 426. If it can't do that, it still favors downside. And we could be looking for a move back down to 422 or below. So look for more downside. And finally, we have Google. Google had this big rejection off its key wick. And if you look at this range, when we hit like 198 to 200, we reject. As we get to 190, we tend to get bought back up. So this could be favoring a move back down towards 195 or below. So I still see some downside on Google, and 195 becomes a potential target. That being said, I thank you all so much for listening. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. The market is still looking very heavy and weak. So for now, the bears have a bigger edge. Please keep that in mind. The head and shoulders is still very present on SPY. And as soon as the data came out, we got this dump exactly as we were talking about. I mentioned there was going to be a big move coming to watch and see what kind of reaction we get. And so far, it's in favor of bears. With that being said, I thank you all for listening. I'll be back in a couple of hours for another update. Until then, have a good day and peace out.